that might not have ever seemed a possibility. If you truly love video games like I do, this moment is for all of us.
This is reminding me of Okami. Yeah, this is
Oh my god, no way! No way! No way! No way!
No way! Oh my god! Holy shit! Oh, it's about to run you! Is that Amaterasu? No!
Ami from Okami is back!
You could say people are excited about this. So, ironically, I had literally just finished recording all the footage for this video the day before the Game Awards dropped, and since this is one of my favorite games, you can understand how excited I was to see the sequel get announced.
I'm gonna fuck myself with this White Claw can.
So, I'll be riding this euphoric high until it actually does come out, but until then, this is a great chance to talk about the original Okami for those who are just learning about it now. Cause honestly, this is something special. Originally coming out on the PS2 in 2006, Okami stands out to me as an all-time classic game. I remember being a young, budding weeb, katana freshly purchased from the nearby strip mall, and being drawn in by the absolutely fantastic art style, where everything in the game looks like a Japanese painting come to life. The flowy brushstroke textures and the thick black outlines on all the models give it a super unique feel, and even almost 20 years later—
No! I ain't old like you! I ain't old! I ain't old!
it all still holds up beautifully. The designs, while very much simplified due to the hardware limitations back then, are still a lot of fun to look at. Plus, the movement of the characters is really, it's really something. The jiggle physics are on full display here. Oh god, turn it down! Turn the jiggle down! In Okami, you take on the role of Amaterasu, a white wolf sun goddess who's recently been unsealed from her shrine after 100 years. After the great evil Orochi reawakens and spreads his icky darkness all over the place like garbage at a gender reveal party, the great Amaterasu is raised from her shrine to once again defeat the demon and restore peace to the land of Nippon. Normally, this would be a simple task, but since this is the start of a video game, your usual godly powers have been all but removed over the course of your 100-year-long slumber, and getting them back is something that you'll need to do over the course of your adventure. Those powers, though, take the form of the Celestial Brush, which is the main gameplay gimmick that Okami's remembered for. By pausing time at any moment, even during combat, Amy's able to draw different symbols to activate her powers and interfere with the natural laws of the world. To regain those powers, though, you need to find the splintered offshoots of your former self, which take the form of constellations scattered around the world. Once you find and reabsorb them, you regain the ability to manifest different phenomena by drawing the corresponding symbol. One of the first abilities you get is Power Slash, which is activated by doing this. It's hard to explain just how satisfying it is to use this on things, but what's not hard to explain is just how much you'll be spamming this particular ability. Are there a bunch of wooden stakes blocking your way? Power Slash. Are there a couple of pesky enemies hiding behind a shield? Power Slash. Did you spot an innocent woman in a field? You better believe that's a Power Slash. Is there a random bear just minding his own business?
Kill him! Kill the bear!
Overall, there's 13 different brush techniques you can find throughout the game, and each one's got a multitude of uses. You can restore broken or missing objects with rejuvenation, draw a circle in the sky to call up the sun and change the time of day, create flowers and trees by drawing a path along the ground, or summon a tornado and— What's extra cool, though, is that there's a bunch of interactions that the game never outright tells you unless you go looking for them. For example, normally drawing a circle around something will cause it to spring to life and bloom flowers, but if you draw that circle around a person, you instead fill them up with energy. There's a lot of games out there where you get to pet dogs, but Okami is one of the rare cases of a game where you get to be the dog that gets pet. I won't spoil the rest of them right now, but I can't stress enough just how fun the Celestial Brush is. And if you're anything like me, you'll be trying out every technique you find on just about anything you run into. But that's just the overworld. Like I said before, you can use your brush in battle too, which is something that comes up pretty frequently. There's a whole cavalcade of unique enemies in this game, and each one's got their own list of weaknesses. Whenever you run into a new type, it gets its own little introduction video followed by a shot of its entry in the Bestiary. And I personally love how all the enemies in Okami are in some way themed after Japanese myths and fairy tales. In fact, pretty much the entirety of the game is just riddled with direct references to famous Japanese stories. Playing it as a kid, I remember being pretty confused by a lot of the story beats, but even then I still had a blast with it. Playing it again now as an adult with more knowledge of those legends definitely makes it more enjoyable, but even if you don't know anything about Princess Kaguya, or the Dragon Palace, or why there are foxes outside of the shrine here, and this one's just mean by the way, you'll still find yourself really sucked into the world as a whole. But back to the enemies. Whenever you find a new enemy to fight, you can usually just take them down by spamming your normal attacks. Heck, a lot of times you don't even have to use the brush techniques if you don't want to. However, at the end of combat, you get reward money based on the time and damage you took during the fight, and if you do poorly, you get the dreaded shriveled nutsack rating. Luckily though, most enemies do have at least one weakness to your brush techniques, which you can then exploit for big damage. I said this before, but for monsters that are shielding themselves with something, you can usually just take the power slash out to break through their defense. For flying types,
The win's easy.
for flying enemies, you can usually do things like cutting their wings or use the Gale technique to spin them out of control and bring them crashing down to your level. Sometimes though, the monster's weaknesses aren't crazy obvious, although a lot of that might just come down to me not knowing enough about Japanese mythology. Regardless, once you've fought a monster, you can check out its entry in the Bestiary, where all of the entries are styled as if they're stories being retold to an audience. And in those stories, you can often figure out how to beat that monster if you're having trouble with it. On top of all that, every now and then you'll notice that one of the enemies will drop a blue demon fang when you kill it. You can eventually trade these demon fangs in to certain merchants for rare items, but each and every monster you fight has a different method of getting it to drop. Right when you kill something, you'll see that time slows down for a brief second before the monster actually hits the ground. If you use the right brush technique on the monster at that exact moment, it'll drop a demon fang. It's actually kind of fun to figure out what technique goes with what monster, but I do highly recommend trying to find them as soon as you can, because you'll need a lot of these later on in the game. Outside of combat though, you'll be spending a lot of your time just exploring the fields of Nippon, and there's plenty of fun stuff to discover here. Spend some time digging up hidden treasure chests or a bunch of secret clovers. Help a whole host of colorful characters with their weird side quests. Experience the horror of trying to 100% complete your fishing log.
Fucking clam!
All of this though is elevated to the next level by just the incredible soundtrack. I mean, the whole of Okami's OST is just full to burst with these traditional Japanese instruments and music stings. And they all make the simple act of exploring just so much more fun. In no time though, you'll find yourself uncovering secret hiding spots, feeding all sorts of animals. Yes, eat up little rabbit, eat up and grow fat. You can trust the large wolf. And restoring the natural beauty of the world by getting rid of any cursed areas you run into. When you first enter a new area, you'll see that most of it's filled up with evil gas. Before you're able to fully explore that zone, you need to find and restore that area's guardian sapling with your celestial brush. They usually aren't any trouble to find, and once you do restore them, the darkness in the map gets blown away with some of the most satisfying fanfare you can get in a game. But this is all coming from someone who's loved this game for years now, so I know I'm pretty biased in my opinions. Which are, objectively right, but that's beside the point. Okami is great, but it definitely isn't perfect, and it does have a few issues that show its age a little bit. Like, sometimes the game just won't cooperate when you're trying to draw something. You're trying to get blue... Will you bloom, you stupid tree? I don't want the sun! Bloom, you stupid tree! And even though it looks fantastic for an old game on the PS2, the limitations of the hardware show through on things like draw distance, cause every now and then you'll just be jump scared by Filthy Frank.
Welcome to the rice fields, motherfucker!
And my god, the physics for rolling ball-shaped objects around are just atrocious. I'm pretty sure I gave myself PTSD from that stupid snowball sequence.
Less cheese! More macaroni! Less macaroni! More cheese and macaroni! Ooh, perfect!
Overall, though, Okami is a solid game. It's got a fun cast of side characters, and there's plenty of extra content outside the main story to keep collectors and casual players more than entertained their entire time with it. Given that it was just recently announced, we probably won't see hide or fur of the sequel until a couple years from now, but in the meantime, this is a great chance to try the first game out to see what all the hype's about. At the time of writing this script, the original Okami is currently on sale for about $5 on Steam, Switch, and PS2, though even when the sale ends, that experience is more than worth it if you ever get the chance to buy it yourself. This is a game that's always going to hold a very special place in my heart, and I was so glad to see I wasn't the only one that felt that way. I was right there with Jeff during the Game Awards when he made the announcement for the sequel, so I hope that with this small video, I've gotten at least a few more people interested in trying out this wonderful art piece of a video game. I've actually noticed that a lot of my favorite games have unique art styles, but honestly, even if Okami didn't look the way it does, I think I'd still have latched onto it for the gameplay on its own. And the Celestial Brush is just such a cool concept, I just really can't wait to see what they do to improve on it in the future. For now though, if you get the chance, go out there and give it a shot yourself. Slash some goldfish, draw something weird on a mask, and above all else, stay far away from any cans of White Claw.
I'm literally gonna put this up my ass.
After the Great Orochi... After the Great Orochi... Jeez Louise. After the Great Evil Orochi, we awakens. He awakens to spread his darkness all over the land. You can restore broken or missing objects with a rejuvenation. Rejuvenation. It makes Wonderful 101. Okami created Wonderful 101, which actually is not too far from the truth. Wait a second, yeah. In Okami, you take on the role of the White Wolf Amaterasu, a sun goddess who has been recently unsealed from her shrine,